Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, and I am so grateful to have you here as I am every week. So thank you so very much. In this week's episode, we are having an encore discussion of the podcast's first year's second most popular topic, which is content creation. Now, I'm actually really excited that content creation was the number 2 most popular topic of the podcast's first year, because I love talking about content creation, and apparently you enjoy listening about it. So excellent. This is a win-win for both of us to talk about content creation again. But first, I do want to invite you to meet with me one-on-one in celebration of the podcast for your own Reiki business mentoring coaching session to talk about your Reiki business challenges and to help you move forward with your Reiki business. This is for the second week of April only, and the link to learn more and schedule your own special session in celebration of the podcast is below. So many thanks to everyone who has already scheduled and met with me. It's a great honor to connect with you and to encourage your Reiki business journey. I also want to make sure to let you know that I've got some exciting news. I'm currently working on a new Reiki business program focusing on distance Reiki, and it is called Build Your Distance Reiki Business. Now, that program is currently in creation. It is not yet ready for release, but you can get on the wait list. I've created a wait list for updates and to let you know when it is available, so that you have the first opportunity to join. You can get on that wait list at standingstoneshealing.com/distancebiz. Yes, the link is down below for that as well. When it comes to content creation, of course, last week's episode was a replay of that original episode in the podcast's first year. And so it talks about my view of what I call the content hierarchy, and the most valuable to the lesser valuable content, at least in my opinion. And in this week's episode, I'd really like to focus in on a couple of things, including the kind of content that can be really helpful for us in our Reiki business for attracting our ideal clients and the kind of people who we would like to serve in our Reiki business. I believe that the best kind of content in our Reiki business is the kind that is filling to our audience, the kind that provides substance, and the kind that really gives them something that they can chew on. And so I like to think of content in terms of meals versus dessert, meals versus cookies, something that is substantive and filling for our audience versus something that is maybe more of a snack. And so a content meal might be something like this podcast episode, something that is longer, 20 plus minutes, something that offers some information, education, and encouragement for the Reiki business journey, something that I hope, my goal here is to be helpful, something that is helpful for you on your Reiki business journey, something that you can really use. So something that is a meal and that is filling for you on your Reiki business journey. A content cookie, on the other hand, might be something like a social media post of a meme or a funny image or picture, something that we can see and digest very quickly and easily, that maybe feels good and tastes good in the moment. I will say that I see a lot of cookies on social media, and cookies can be really helpful for our Reiki business and fun. Cookies, let's admit it, cookies, whether they are in the form of content or they are in the form of food, are fun. They are easily digestible in terms of they're quick, they give you a sugar rush, they make you laugh, they make you think, but they don't last long, right? We can't sustain ourselves on cookies alone. And so on our social media posts, in our Reiki business's content, a cookie is going to be something like a funny meme that gets people laughing, that gets people maybe thinking, but that, like a cookie, does not last long. We get the sugar rush, it tastes good, and then it fades away. And it doesn't really satiate our real hunger or our real need for helpful, useful content. And so I really want to encourage us to use cookies absolutely in our Reiki business, but to consider using them sparingly, or at least to not rely on them as the sole content that we put out, create, or more likely, let's be real, share in our Reiki business. And when I say share, you probably know what I'm talking about. There are plenty of memes out there, plenty of inspirational encouragement kinds of posts that many people will simply right-click on the image, save, and then post it themselves. And there's no attribution for where that meme, that image originally came from. There's no credit for the original poster. And indeed, it can look as though that has come from us. That meme has been created by us. That image has been taken by us. That quote has been created by us. Unfortunately, this is all too common in social media, and it is actually not confined to social media. It is something that proliferates in the self-help, self-personal, spiritual development world. I talk about this in the Be a Content Boss workshop recording, which is part of the Build Your Reiki Business program and will be part of the Build Your Distance Reiki Business program. But the passing off of stories and images, memes as one's own when they are not, is so very common on social media, but it doesn't only happen on social media, and it happens very much in the self-help, self-development world, particularly in lots and lots of books. So many self-help books will reuse the same stories, and the authors pass them off as their own. This is unfortunate, but then we see the same kind of thing happening in social media all of the time. I do want to encourage us, rather than simply right-clicking on a post that we see that, ooh, that looks neat. Oh, I love that quote. Oh, I love that meme. Let me just right-click and copy and repost. I really want to encourage us to either share the original post where we see it posted, or to create our own dang content. Because these feel-good cookies, while they feel really good to read them in the moment, they give our audience a sugar rush. They give our audience a high and a sense of, ooh, that feels good, that's funny, I like that. Just like a cookie, we cannot build our Reiki business on memes alone. And I do see this happening, and I really want to discourage us from this practice. Instead, I want to encourage us to offer our audience meals, helpful things that they can really use, that are going to be beneficial to them, and that are going to be helpful to them. If we are only ever sharing interesting, funny, uplifting quotes or funny memes with our audience, I believe that we're doing a disservice to them, so that just like feeding them only cookies, we're not really filling them up. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to just eat cookies. As a matter of fact, I don't. Perhaps I'm a real proponent of content meals rather than content cookies, because I don't eat a lot of cookies in real life. I eat a lot of kale. I eat a lot of lentils, beans, quinoa, things like that. And I don't buy cookies, and I don't eat a lot of candy, cookies, sweets, cakes, or things like that. Although I will say I definitely like my dark 85% chocolate. And so when it comes to creating content meals, there's a great technique that I want to share with you. This is not my technique. I do have my own techniques for content creation. I do share them in the Be a Content Boss workshop. But one great technique that is not mine, that is very common, is the ASQ method. And ASQ simply stands for Answer Simple Questions. And this is where we create content that simply answers simple questions. And so when you are saying, oh, I have no idea what to post, what should I be posting, what kind of content should I be creating, this is a very common question, so you're not alone. Or when you're sitting at your computer and saying, oh, I need to post something for my Reiki business. What should I post? I have no idea what to post. If you get intimidated by sitting at your computer, staring at the blank post something screen, you are not alone in that. That is so very common. But the ASQ method is so very simple to get yourself going with creating content. And so you would just be posting on answering the simple questions that your audience has. And when I say simple questions, I mean like simple, like what is Reiki? Or what happens during a Reiki session? What can I expect during a Reiki session? Or what is my process in a Reiki session? What should I wear during a Reiki session? What happens after a Reiki session? Or if in your Reiki business you have a particular niche that you focus on, let's say maybe Reiki for diabetes, talking about diabetes and how Reiki might help with the experience of diabetes. Speaking of content cookies, right? When we employ the ASQ method, we really want to take the view of no stupid questions, no silly questions, no questions that are too small for us to answer. And so answering these questions is really going to help your audience, because your audience may very well have these questions, but they might not be asking them because, number one, they might think that they're stupid and don't want to ask them because they don't want to look silly. Number two, they might not realize that they have these questions. So they might be questions that they have, but that they are afraid, or that they don't realize that they have. Not that they're afraid to ask them, but they don't even realize that they have these questions. Have you ever had someone ask you a question and you're like, wow, that's a really good question. I never even thought of that question. Well, your audience might not be thinking of those questions. And so by you really bringing it down to the very basic level, you are going to be able to put yourself in your audience's shoes and answer questions that not only they might have, but they might realize that they don't have. It's also very helpful for us to be bringing ourselves down to the level of our audience. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to demean our audience by any means whatsoever. But for us as Reiki practitioners, when someone wants to know what to expect during a Reiki session or what should I wear during a Reiki session, like to us, that's no big deal. To us, we don't even think about what do you wear to a Reiki session? Well, I wouldn't even think of that because we've been doing the Reiki thing maybe for years and years and years, and we don't even think about those questions anymore. Or the question of should I take my shoes off during a Reiki session? To us, that's not even a question that we might think that someone would have because we're so far past that kind of question in our practice and maybe even for years. But answering those kinds of questions is going to even help our audience to see that, oh, you get me. Oh, you understand where I'm coming from. Oh, you're bringing this topic down to my level where I can understand it. And so that's so very helpful for our client in helping them to see that you get them, that we understand our audience, we understand where they are coming from, and that we can meet them where they are at. And meeting our audience, meeting our clients where they are at is so very helpful and important for helping our clients, our audience, to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel understood, and to resonate with us as well. And so in our content, all we need to do to begin is to answer simple questions. Your audience is hungry for the information and the knowledge. They're hungry to have those simple questions answered. And by you answering them, when we answer those questions, we are giving our clients the meals that they are hungry for, whether they realize it or not. And so when we are asking ourselves, what kind of content should I create? We can simply create a list of simple questions. What are the simple questions that my audience might have about Reiki, about how Reiki can help with diabetes, about how Reiki might impact diabetes? But those are questions that your audience might have. And so depending upon your audience, depending upon your niche, tailor those simple questions to your audience and answer them. And you can create a whole list of simple questions. And by employing this one simple strategy, you will never run out of content ideas, which means that you don't have to worry about finding someone else's content cookies to copy and post on your social media. You'll be providing your audience with meals, with healthy things, with the kale and the lentils, the beans, the quinoa that is going to fill them up on their journey. I believe this is what our audience really deserves. And of course, there's nothing wrong with dessert as well. Throw out the cookies, the content cookies, post the memes, post the inspirational quotes. That all has its place. And so those things, I'm not saying let's not do them, but I'm saying let's make sure that we're first and foremost giving our audience filling meals, things that can sustain them, things that fill them up, that satiate their hunger, rather than simply giving them cookies that feel good in the moment and then they scroll past and they're on to the next meme to laugh at. So, what are the simple questions that your audience is asking? What are the simple questions that you are going to answer in your Reiki business content? What kinds of meals are you providing to your audience? Please feel free to join us in the Reiki Business Collective and tell us all about it. What kind of content are you creating at facebook.com/groups/ReikiBiz? Well, I hope that this content has been filling for you. I hope that it has been like rice and beans and you are feeling full and that you feel full every week with the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Sending so many blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. Sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.